Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. In this quick lesson, I just want to highlight how our fight is going to be fought. It's not going to be won carnally. You know, you're not just going to turn into Batman. Okay, now don't get it twisted. Particular men are going to be endowed with spiritual power, but the glory is always going to be given to Yahweh Shah. He's going to put us in positions to where the enemy will be able to look at us and say, how can these people stand against us? When that standard is lifted up, it's going to be made evident that, oh, I'm not even really dealing with these people. I'm dealing with the power behind them. They have a covenant with the master of the universe. Okay, now I want to show you a clip of this Edomite in his backyard, because remember, there were some slight differences between Jacob and Esau's blessing in Genesis. The main difference between the two would be that Jacob's blessing was to be an everlasting kingdom. Esau's was temporary and had a allotted time. But another difference in there is that the sword is mentioned in Esau's blessing. Carnality is that's his bag. Talk about the sword, the ability to kill. That's his bag. And the sword doesn't stop with just literal weapons. You know, it can be biological weapons. You know, it can be psychological warfare. To destroy and to kill, that's his bag. He is as death, as the scriptures say. So when I show you this clip, this Edomite in the middle of nowhere who's able to create this weapon, that's the spirit that's in them. The same way Jake can pick up an instrument in the middle of nowhere and filter his soul through it. He can pick up a basketball no matter where he's from, and he become so in love with the craft, become one of the best in the world. Pick up the gloves, you know what I mean? Hand-to-hand combat, Jake got it. But when it comes to killing, that's Esau's bag. Out of all the mortals on the earth, nobody can kill the way he kills. Out of the mortals, we're not going to be mortals forever. So, you know, but the one that's going to put Esau down is the one that's coming back as a great power, which is Yahweh Shai. Okay, so let me read this clip and then we'll continue on. Precepts.
Let me introduce you to Dr. Michael Aquino.
My camera is only weakly sensitive to this laser's wavelength, yet it still managed to unveil the actual beast at hand. Even without careful focusing, the laser can easily set fire to my fence about 70 meters in the distance. After the fog lifted, I switched back to filming invisible light mode on my camera, which means the laser is back to being invisible the way it is in real life.
I'm not gonna lie, this feels like the kind of thing that they make new laws about. Now I just know you guys are gonna comment on that propane tank, and believe me, every day the urge is there to light that thing on fire. However, it wouldn't exactly be very responsible of me, so I'm gonna light this thing on fire instead. No way.
The laser punched through the steel wall super quickly. However, it wasn't able to provide the flame needed to actually ignite the gas. I decided to give it another try, and was able to briefly ignite it by keeping the laser firing at the leaking tank. I have this fire brick that I melted through earlier from close range. Let's see if I can do it again from 70 meters. I gave the brick a solid 30-second blast from the laser, hoping that the raw power of the beam could make up for the rickety mount that the laser is sitting in.
I can't tell if I melted through it or not. It's melting. It's certainly melting there. I should go check on it.
The laser did in fact make it all the way through the fire brick, melting an impressive portion of it and turning it into glass. Clearly, the laser spot can still reach some extreme temperatures even at this distance.
Alright, that's actually pretty insane, because that is just light. That's wild.
All right, so hey, it's this devil's talent to take things and use it for destruction and death. Again, we mentioned in Habakkuk 2, the scriptures say he is as death. All right, so let's read the blessing in Genesis 27:40 for Esau. Actually, let me start at I'll start at hold up, 38. All right, because you remember Esau sold his blessing. He's a fleshly man. He's only interested in instant gratification. So he came back from hunting one day, and instead of just being able to wait on a meal, he ate some red meat with blood in it, which is against the law. And he said, "I don't care. I'll eat it with the blood in it." And Jacob was like, "Well, sell me your birthright. You can have this meal that I'm preparing that I'm not done making." And he sold it. And when it came time for him to, acknowledge that, I sold the blessing to Jacob, he was just going to take it. Just underhanded demon. All right, Genesis 27:38, it says, "And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept and played victim. Victim villains, as the elder Malcolm in Chicago likes to say. That's what they are. All right, verse 39, it says, "And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth." And when you look up this word fatness, I believe it's going to mention oil. Yeah, H49:24. Fatness, fat piece, fertile place, richly prepared food, fatness, and then it says oil, olive oil. It mentions various things, but the Lord leaves these little nuggets and these little hints and clues for us to be like, oh, it's like this covers a wide spectrum of things. Look at that, you know. Shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew from heaven above. Now, verse 40 says, "And by the sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off of thy neck." So it was a point in time where Jake was still ruling over Edom, but they got the rule. They got dominion. So they got dominion coming in like as the Greeks, transferring over to the Romans. The Roman Empire fell. Jake ruled in Europe for 1,000 years. They called it the Dark Ages. Then the Renaissance period, they came back into power, whitewashed all the images, lied about the history, and they're still in that uh, that reign today. But that's coming to a halt, man. And we're getting ready to step into Jacob's blessing. Now, because they've been allowed to commit so many atrocities and evil for so long, they think that they're not going to be judged for the bullshit that they've done. Because their sins have reached unto heaven, they don't think they're going to answer for it. So when you go to Psalms 49:11, this is the spirit that the Edomite is in. All right, Psalms 49:11. It says, "Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, that their kingdom is going to continue forever, that they're always going to be in the position that they're in," which is not the case, pursuing the prophecy. All right, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own name. So they'll go take over a place and store the people for their resources. They'll name it after themselves. A recent example of that is Trump naming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, which America is named after Amerigo Vespucci, Edomite man. Same way Africa is named after Leo Scipio Africanus. Okay, so these people will come in your house, take your shit, and say, "No, no, I'm the original one from here. This is my place. I'm the native here." So this man has a lot to pay for it. He's gonna pay for it. What's the why in what is it, Jeremiah 49 or is it Jeremiah 50? It says, "I was the hammer of the earth, broken asunder." This man's the hammer of the earth. Okay? But the Lord has laid all these snares in his path to where, you know, his grips on the power is going to deteriorate. And under the cherry on top is going to be the Lord coming back, beating him at his own game, which is violence. I did that lesson, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Speaking on what? Um, Wicked men who commit violence are kept in check by righteous men who are more capable of violence. And the Lord isn't going to beat this guy as a man. Like I said, out of mortals, you know, he's the top guy when it comes to killing and murder. But when the Lord comes back, he's not going to be immortal. He's going to be in a divine body, man, from the beginning. Put this man in check. So, Abaratazah, you know, the lesson was edifying, man. Our fight is a carnal one. Scriptures say the weapons of our warfare are spiritual to the pulling down of strongholds. The Lord wants us in a position to where, you know, we're in that wormly position, oh Jacob, thou worm, to where that people see that the deliverance was from on high, that it wasn't by carnal means, that a supernatural entity backed us. Okay? Same way the Lord's name was made famous in ancient Egypt, it's going to be made even more famous in the North Country. I think in Jeremiah, was it at 15? If I'm not mistaken. It's Jeremiah 15 or 16. It talks about, you know, our deliverance from the North Country outdoing our deliverance from Egypt. How people are no more going to talk about the deliverance from Egypt because it's going to pale in comparison to what the Lord is getting ready to do in our time. Okay? So just have the right mindset on the fight that we're fighting. Okay, so Abarakazah, again, the lessons edifying. I want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Ruach HaKodesh. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth in sincerity. All right? May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.